Hello everyone, today is 4th of February. Now it's 15 past 9 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Kudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. Later on today at evening time I will publish second news update on my Patreon and Boosty pages, and if you are looking for more news from Russia, more commentary or better understanding of Russian or pro-Russian view on certain geopolitical developments, I hope you will consider to join our communities on Patreon and Boosty, where I have a lot of extra content on regular basis. Links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. That's been said. Let's go through some news now. And first of all, of course, I will report about terrorist attack that happened in Moscow yesterday when explosion explosion occurred in one of the residential complexes in Russian capital. Initially, media reported that one person was killed there and at least 5 was wounded. Obviously, emergency services arrived there on the scene straight away, and media started reporting that main target of this terrorist attack was a founder and, as far as I understand, one of the main sponsors of Arbat voluntary battalion that is fighting against evil forces in Donbass, and under evil forces, of course, I mean Western ruling class and their proxies, including in Ukraine. Name of this person is Armen Sarkisyan. Although media reported that he received injuries but survived this assassination attempt, although unfortunately later on he died in a hospital from received wounds. Not the first and not the last terrorist attack of Kiev regime and their Western masters on Russian soil, including in Moscow, I'm afraid. And well, everyone who is engaged in this war against evil, by the way, against evil forces, should be ready that they will be targeted. And if one has an opportunity or means to take care of some security, that should be done. That should be done. This person was low-key. He was not a public figure. I never heard about him before, right? Or at least I didn't remember. But still, by the way, he was targeted, right? Which means that anybody, no matter you are public figure or not, but if you are engaged in this war against evil forces, you have a target on your back. Everyone should know that and take measures as much as possible for security, right? Investigation is underway, and I personally have no doubts that trace will lead to Kiev regime's so-called secret services, and ultimately to Western secret services, namely CIA, US CIA and British MI6, most dangerous terrorist organizations in this world, as we all know, right? Meanwhile, TASS news agency is reporting that Russian air defense systems intercepted Neptune long-range missile that was launched by Kiev regime to strike deep into Russian territory, but missile did not reach its target. It was intercepted over the Azov Sea. And also, by the way, when it comes to interceptions, Russian media, based on Defense Ministry, reported yesterday afternoon that as a result of air-to-air combat, Russian fighter pilots intercepted and destroyed Ukrainian Su-27 pilot. Ukrainian pilot of that plane was killed as a result of this air combat. No precise information which Russian plane was engaged in this air-to-air battle. Was it MiG-29, Su-27, Su-30, Su-35, Su-57, or maybe MiG-31 with its long-range hypersonic missiles? I believe longest kill is on MiG-31 with a kill on a range of up to over 200 kilometers. All the information at this point, as far as I understand, about operations of Russian Air Force is classified, and we will learn some more about it only once this conflict will end. Anyways, success for Russian Air Force, yet another air-to-air kill. Meanwhile, RT is reporting that NATO plans to oust Zelensky, according to Russian intelligence community. So NATO is considering trying to facilitate the removal of Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky from power by discrediting him ahead of potential elections next fall. The Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, SVR, claimed in a statement on Monday. The agency believes that Western officials see Zelensky as a key obstacle to peace talks with Moscow. Zelensky remains in office despite his term having officially expired last May. He has refused to step down under postponed presidential elections, citing the martial law imposed in 2022 following escalation of the conflict with Russia. Western leaders are looking to freeze the conflict by pushing both Moscow and Kiev toward negotiations, but Zelensky is seen as a barrier, the SVR said. Washington and Brussels agree that their main obstacle to the implementation of such a scenario is Zelensky, who is referred to in Western cycles as nothing more than expendable material. The agency, or dead weight, by the way, the agency said in their statement, adding that even NATO understands that Zelensky's time is up. To address this, the bloc is reportedly preparing a campaign to discredit Zelensky ahead of Ukraine's next presidential elections, which the agency said could take place next fall. The SVR claimed that Western officials plan to release information linking Zelensky and his team to their embezzlement of over 1.5 billion US dollars in funds intended for purchasing military equipment. Additionally, the report alleged that Zelensky's administration was involved in schemes to divert their salaries of 130,000 deceased Ukrainian soldiers who remain listed as active service members. The SVR also claimed that Zelensky was implicated in the illegal sale of Western supplied weapons to armed groups in Africa. The SVR suggested that the return of Donald Trump to White House has created uncertainty over their future Western support for Ukraine, which could accelerate efforts to replace Zelensky. According to agency, NATO's border goal is to maintain Ukraine as a NATO's broader goal is to maintain Ukraine as an anti-Russian foothold, regardless of the situation on the battlefield. Neither NATO or Ukrainian officials have responded to SVR's claims so far. Interesting, isn't it? We all know that Zelensky's regime is one of the most corrupt regimes in the world, and certainly most corrupt regime in Europe. No doubts about that. And also, we all understand that Zelensky's time is up. And I guess one of the main candidates that West would probably consider to replace him will be Andy Zaluzhny, former head of Ukraine's general staff, right? Although some other names are also mentioned, by the way. And recently, former aide of Zelensky, Arestovich, has become quite active. Western media outlets paying attention to this personality. He was recently invited to PBD podcaster, and PBD is close to Trump's inner circle, as far as I understand, which cannot be random stuff, right? So maybe Trump and his team has some plans about this personality. That's quite a possibility also. And some other names may also be considered as ones that can replace Zelensky. In any case, Zelensky's time is up, and before end of this year, he probably will be removed from office one way or another. When it comes to Arestovich, by the way, just a couple of days ago, he once again made headlines by saying that Ukraine has lost. Ukraine actually has lost this war, mainly to its own arrogance and inadequate takes, which is quite interesting. But I don't think any of us needs some statements from Arestovich to know perfectly well that the Kiev regime lost this conflict with Russia on very first day, right? Western ruling class also knew from very beginning that practically nothing will be left from Ukraine as a result of outcome, as outcome of this proxy war that West is waging against Russia, and they sacrifice Ukraine and the residents of that quasi-state, right? Meanwhile, by the way, Trump is making headlines again, U.S. president, and he once again stated that there are some successful talks with Ukraine and Russia. So the U.S. is set to hold the talks with Russia and Ukraine over the settlement of the conflict. President Trump has announced, adding that discussions on the issue are going pretty well, and the question is with whom Trump's team is talking to, right? Trump himself did not have any conversation with the Russian president, as far as we know. But he said something similar stuff so many times in the last couple of days that I guess certain groups from inner circle of Trump and the Russian president probably are in talks, right? Let's see if Peskov, press spokesman of the Russian president, will share with public some more information about it. Although, yet again, as I said previously, by the way, I would not be surprised at all if Peskov will say that there was not at all any contacts for now between Trump's team and the Russian leadership, right? That would not surprise me too. But anyways, Trump is saying that some negotiations, or initial stages at least, of talks are going pretty well. Whatever he means by this, I don't know. And obviously, one of the main topics of discussion worldwide is when and where meeting between Trump and Putin might take place. Many countries come forward with initiative to hold such talks, such negotiations. Although, first of all, of course, phone conversation probably will be arranged between the two before face-to-face meeting will take place. But we have a report from Reuters that Russia is favoring Saudi Arabia or United Arab Emirates as a potential hosts of such negotiations. Maybe this is true, maybe not true. I don't know. Reuters quite often shares with public some nonsensical information, right? Pure propaganda, and therefore I don't know if we can trust this Western propaganda source outlet, but at least that's the news that they are sharing. It might be UAE or Saudi Arabia, obviously. It might be India, by the way. Russian president plans to visit India this year, right? And India can host such negotiations for sure. Trump may visit India same time. Why not? Some other countries can also host such a meeting. I don't see issues there. But yet again, I'm a bit skeptical, by the way. I'm a bit skeptical that this year, in 2025, there will be any face-to-face meetings between Trump and Putin. I don't see any real indicators for that, or to be optimistic that conflict will end anytime soon, or that Trump's administration is really about the escalation, because there is no concrete steps in place, right? And not just that, but Trump is more and more sounds like Lindsey Graham, by the way, if you notice it, right? And for example, he demanded some rare earth materials from Ukraine. U.S., so that U.S. to continue its financial and military assistance. Does this statement remind you anybody from U.S. that talk too much about Ukraine's natural riches and how many trillions U.S. might gain from that? It's Lindsey Graham, isn't it? This Republican senator that on regular basis embarrasses US, right? In my personal opinion. So it is sad to see that Trump is beginning to sound more like Lindsey Graham, by the way. This is not a good look, for sure. But anyways, let's go through this news. EU will have to supply Washington with rare earth materials if it wants to continue receiving American assistance. US President Donald Trump told journalists on Monday Ukraine will need to enter a new agreement with the US. He added, calling it a guarantee for Washington. According to their 2024 World Economic Forum report, Ukraine holds immense potential as a major global supplier of critical rare materials that could be essential for defense, high-tech, and green energy industries. Their nation boasts the largest lithium reserves in Europe. By the way, these areas where these biggest lithium reserves is under Russian control, right? Those territories were liberated by Russian forces. But anyways, let's continue. So nation boasts the largest lithium reserves in Europe, amounting to 7% of global reserves. Before the escalation of the conflict with Moscow in 2022, Ukraine was a key lithium supplier for military industries. The list of rare earth materials that can be found in Ukraine also includes beryllium, manganese, gallium, uranium, zirconium, graphite, apatite, purite, and the nickel, and that former Soviet Republic on territory there is much more other minerals, obviously, including coal, by the way. The country also possesses Europe's largest confirmed lithium reserves, estimated at 500,000 tons. The mineral is particularly important for use in batteries and accumulators. And then, quote here, Ukraine has a very valuable rare earth, Trump told journalists on Monday. According to the president, the US was handing them, Ukraine, money, hand over first, and wanted some guarantees. We are looking to do a deal with Ukraine where they are going to secure what we are giving to them with their rare earth and other things, he added. Last week, Trump halted all aid programs run by USAID, soft power agency that distributes billions of dollars each year for projects that promote US interests around the world under the premise of humanitarian development. The agency oversaw numerous aid schemes in Ukraine. And in response, by the way, Ukrainian MP appealed to the EU, right? Once USAID shut down processing some money for Kiev regime's propaganda outlets, NGOs, and so on. Ukraine then Ukrainian MPs asked EU to basically fund this sector instead of US. I don't know if there was any answer from Brussels for that. Although there are constant promises, right, from Brussels that they will increase financial support of Kiev regime to prolong this proxy war as much as possible. But anyways, to go back to main topic of this news, it is sad to see, by the way, it is definitely sad to see that Trump sounds more like Lindsey Graham. He talks about some rare materials. I mean, if you are about the escalation, then what you are talking about? You should not send any more weapons or money to Kiev regime, right? If you really want to end this conflict, then what are you talking about? I don't know, man. I mean, Trump is a strange figure, isn't it? Today he might say one stuff, tomorrow he may say something else that will contradict to his previous statements. God knows what he meant while talking about these rare materials. And that's why, because of this too much of confusion when it comes to Trump's administration, it is difficult to be optimistic, right? And me personally, that's why I'm saying there will be no meeting between Putin and Trump in 2025. I'm not sure that even phone conversation will take place between the two. And if you ask me, I'll tell you that most likely in next several weeks, few months maximum, we will see unprecedented level of escalation between of this conflict between NATO and Russia. That's what it is, really, isn't it? It's a conflict between collective West, NATO, and Russia. This is a proxy war that West is waging against us, and we are about to witness unprecedented scale of escalation. It's a matter of several weeks now, maybe maximum several months, and only after that, our Western ruling class probably will finally realize that they went too far. Their lives, they are no longer playing with the lives of millions of people. Their own lives are on a line of fire, and only then Western ruling class will think about de-escalating and will authorize their puppets in the governments in the collective West, including in US. And don't tell me that Trump is not a puppet of Western ruling class, by the way. Please give me a break. So only then Western ruling class will authorize their puppets to really start acting towards the escalation. No before that. Anyways, let's continue. This is the news, by the way, that I was talking about when I mentioned Arestovich, when he basically made headlines with his statement that Ukraine has actually already lost her. Let me give you some little more detail. I spoke about many of these news in yesterday's second update from my Patreon and on my Patreon and Boosty channels. But it is quite interesting, so I will share in this update also for YouTube and Rumble. So Ukraine has lost their armed conflict with Russia primarily due to the inability of the Ukrainian people to take a personal responsibility for their failures. Alexei Arestovich, a former aide to Vladimir Zelensky, has argued there. He expects the US, Russia, and China to decide on a resolution of the conflict without consulting Kiev. First of all, I mean, I don't get why he mentions China. Maybe to bring to himself some attention from the West, because whenever you mention China, in any context, you are getting some attention from the West, right? But in any case, he has points here, right? Obviously, whenever time will come to de-escalate, there will be talks between Moscow and Washington. Maybe London will be involved somewhat, partially even Brussels, a few more capitals from Europe, but definitely not the Kyiv regime, by the way. Who the hell Kyiv regime is? I mean, what? Why would Moscow spend their time talking to these puppets that mean nothing, right? Who the hell is Elensky or anybody in Kyiv regime? They are just the puppets, right? Filthy dogs of CIA and their MI6. That's what they are. Filthy rabid dogs, right? On a chain. That's about it. And what usually happens with rabid dogs? We all know that, isn't it? And that's the fate of these criminals from Kyiv regime. Western ruling class will take care of them. Quite sure about it. It's only a matter of time. They use these rabid dogs now and will continue to use for time being, but once they are no longer useful, they will share fate of all the rabid dogs worldwide. That's quite you don't have to be genius to understand that, right? Anyways, let's continue. TASS news agency is reporting that formerly head of NATO, Mark Rutte, stated that to avoid war, NATO should spend some more money on defense. Rutte is trying to, Rutte is already wagging his tail to U.S. new administration, right? Unsurprisingly, and he's calling to to increase defense spendings to further enrich corrupt officials and military-industrial complex. No surprises there. And by the way, where I see surprise is that Germany at least under current leadership, said that they're not going to increase their military spending up to 5% of GDP as Trump demanded. Germany, by the way, which is occupied by US, right? So Berlin is saying that they're not going to increase spending on such a level, because that will mean almost half of the federal budget is going for military spendings. But France is actually happy to double its military spending. And the so-called president of France, another puppet on the chain, Macron, stated about it openly. So French president, so-called president, Emmanuel Macron has announced that France will double its defense budget in the near future, and urged fellow EU leaders to also boost military spending. These claims aimed US pressure on NATO member states to increase contributions to collective security. Speaking to journalists on Monday following an informal meeting of EU leaders in Brussels on European defense, Macron emphasized the need for stronger and more autonomous Europe. France will double its defense budget following the completion of 2 military programming laws and will launch major strategic projects, Macron said, calling on fellow EU members to follow suit. Okay, overall, by the way, once France will double its budget, military spendings, that budget will reach 120 billion euros or something, about around that, if not more, potentially even more, right? Interesting that European economies that are already experiencing some major difficulties, by the way, and are struggling to survive, actually, due to process of deindustrialization that all major economies are experiencing now. Despite all this stuff, number of countries still are willing to further sacrifice interests of the public to make a happier military industrial complex and whomever is pulling the strings in the West, right? Okay, as long as they have no opposition, real opposition, by the way, as long as people in Western countries are okay with this craziness, then why would there anybody stop acting this crazy, right? Among so-called leaders in the West. But still, I'm a bit surprised that at least for now, Germany is saying that they're not gonna increase their military spending up to 5% of GDP. I mean, Berlin, really? That's a strange part. But yet again, maybe Washington will make 1 or 2 calls and leadership of Germany will have a change of hearts, right? And they will say that they're not gonna just increase military spendings up to 5%, but maybe even up to 10% of GDP, man, which will mean almost entire budget of federal government. Anyways, let's continue. And quite interesting news here, friends. I just mentioned Macron, isn't it? And well, French journalist that published materials that Macron's wife is actually a male, used to be male at least, born as a male, let's say. So that journalist who had such claims and was under heavy pressure, as far as I understand, from law enforcement agencies and security services in France, is asking for political asylum in Russia, which is quite interesting, isn't it? She asked for help, Russian MP, also journalist Pyotr Tolstoy, and probably she will be able to receive political asylum, because I personally have no doubts that she is definitely under heavy pressure for her journalistic work, or for her work, by the way. I'm not 100% convinced that her materials are correct. I just don't know, and I don't really care to be honest, about all this crap that happening around Macron. But still she's a human being, right? And if for her opinions she is prosecuted or pressured, then she has every reasoning to apply for political asylum if she feels threatened in France, and she probably does. So journalist Natasha Ray, who claims that President Emmanuel Macron's wife Brigitte was born as a man, has asked for political asylum in Russia. Her lawyer Frankos Danglein said on social media, stated on social media, and as I said, she asked for support Russian MP Pyotr Tolstoy, who himself is a journalist, true journalist, by the way, right? And used to be journalist. He's now MP. I don't know if he still hosts some programs on TV. Maybe. I know one Russian senator who actually continues to host a program that he has on one of the TV channels. I don't know, maybe it's not the case now, but I know he was continuing to work on that project. I should watch TV time to time, by the way, but I don't, right? Only if I see some news about some TV stuff on internet. But anyways, interesting, isn't it? Interesting that Russia is becoming a safe haven for people that are illegally prosecuted in the West. More and more people are applying for, asking Russia for help and applying for asylum, political asylum. At this point, no details. Did this person, Natasha Ray, officially apply in Russian institutions for political asylum or not? But I guess she did. Because her lawyer is talking about it. So probably it's official. And so before I continue, dear friends, let me notice that this small independent media project from Russia is completely subscriber funded, and depends, 100% depends on support of community. And if you like my work, if you like my channels, or if you think I deserve to be in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support this project with donation through PayPal or Boosty. I know some people don't like PayPal, some people don't like Boosty, but I mean, this is Boosty, by the way. That's what you're gonna see when you open a link, and it's quite easy to navigate. Once my page was blocked on Buy Me Coffee, I started using relatively more actively Boosty, and it's easy to navigate, really. I mean, you can send a tip, you can donate for a cause, and I decide to have a cause every month, just to maintain the project. In February, for example, I set up a cause. You can donate to that, or you can subscribe simultaneously. By the way, I have plenty of extra content on Boosty too, as I do on Patreon. And you can subscribe to, you can choose your level of support. Yes, and to log in, by the way, it's quite easy. You press login, and the platform automatically will show you some social platforms that are relevant in your area of the world here in Russia. It shows me automatically Kontakte, Mail.ru, mail service, Odnoklassniki, or social network, and also some global ones, YouTube, Google, and Twitch. It will be similar in your country. You can use your current account to log in, or you can create a new one, especially for Boosty, for example, and then use this platform as a source of support for this project. It's quite intuitive to navigate, really. So yes, you can support with donations through PayPal platform. But if you don't like PayPal for whatever reason, where I have a new account, by the way, my previous account was blocked on PayPal, so I have a new one now. LGO network is the name. My relatives helped me to set up that new account. So yes, you can support through PayPal or Boosty platforms with donations, or you can subscribe also. If you want to support in the long term, you can subscribe to my Patreon page or page on Boosty, where I have extra content on a regular basis, at least several times a week. That's being said, and that's how it looks from inside, by the way. That's how it looks from inside. At this point on Boosty, I only have 14 subscribers. Hopefully community will increase on Boosty also, as on Patreon. And so yes, that's how it looks from inside. Plenty of extra content. And dear friends, sometimes I receive questions, why you are not talking about this topic or that topic. I have second updates on my Patreon and Boosty pages, right? And some news I might repeat in updates on YouTube and Rumble, but some news and commentary stays on our Patreon and Boosty, right? So if you did not see any topic in an update on YouTube and Rumble, that does not mean that I ignore something. No, probably I spoke about it in my second update, right, on Patreon or Boosty. Anyways, dear friends, if you can, please also subscribe to my Telegram channel and my page on Twitter X. It's free, by the way. Telegram and Twitter X is free to subscribe, isn't it? So it might be helpful. I'm sharing also quite a bunch of news there, and well, all the links to PayPal, Boosty, Patreon, crypto wallet, and everything else is on this with the description box and in the pinned comment. Meanwhile, dear friends, Commerçant is reporting that there was an interesting article in New York Times which basically accuses Iran of working on a nuclear program once again. Basically, we are seeing significant activization in the West in terms of creating this yet another false narrative, isn't it? That Iran is about to build nuclear weapons and nuclear Iran and this and that. Why is this happening? Because obviously certain groups, Western ruling class first of all, wants to start a major war in the Middle East, a regional war, to shut down navigation in the Persian Gulf and cut off China from Middle Eastern energy sources. I spoke about this many times before, right? And to provoke this major war and to force US to get involved in that, right? False narratives being created, left and right, and this is exactly the step in this direction from New York Times. And let's read this news, by the way, for a little more details. So US intelligence learned about Iran's approach to building nuclear weapons. US intelligence has found out that a group of Iranian scientists is working on an accelerated way to create nuclear weapons, reports New York Times, citing current and retired US officials. According to intelligence report, Iran's engineers and weapons specialists are seeking to reduce their production time of atomic weapons to several months. This data was collected in the final month of President Joe Biden's administration and shared with President-elect Donald Trump's national security team. Officials say Iran remains on the cusp of developing a nuclear weapon. After the US withdrawal from the 2015 agreement, Iran has resumed its production of uranium and now has enough fuel to build 4 or more atomic bombs. This topic is likely to be discussed on Tuesday, February 4th, at a meeting between Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. In recent years, Netanyahu was on the verge of ordering a strike on Iran nuclear facilities, the New York Times notes. However, according to a publication, Trump is in no hurry to enter into conflict with the Iranian authorities and is ready for negotiations. Well, first of all, shame on Trump, by the way, that he is first foreign leader that he will have a meeting is a genocidal mass murderer Netanyahu. It's a shame, by the way. It's a shame on Trump, shame on US. I still don't understand how US will ever get rid of shame of uploading Netanyahu, this mass murderer, by the way, and war criminal, when he was uploaded there in Congress, that was, isn't it? When he was received like, I don't know, man, mega rock star or something. This mass murderer, by the way, right? And now Trump is meeting with him. Despicable. Simply despicable. That's all I can say. And attack on Iran. I don't believe even for a second that Iran is creating nuclear weapons, because it's counterproductive for Iran, because very day that Iran will develop an atomic bomb or nuclear weapon, atomic or thermonuclear, whatever, very day that Iran will have a nuclear weapon in its disposal, will trigger arms race in the region. Turkey will immediately start working on nuclear weapons. Saudi Arabia will start working on nuclear weapons. Some other countries in the region, and that will not make Iran any more safer, right? So therefore, it is counterproductive. I don't think Iran needs any nuclear weapons. I think for national security, for security reasons, it would be better if Iran would have some agreement with Russia, so that Moscow will deploy some intermediate missile systems, let's say, in Iran, and their nuclear weapons, right? As to guarantee Iran's security, because I think it is in Russia's best interest to make sure that there is no major war in the Middle East, and their navigation in the Persian Gulf is not disturbed, right? It is in Russia's best interest to do whatever it takes to maintain peace as much as possible in the Persian Gulf area, right? And one of the reasons, by the way, there are many reasons, right? From humanitarian to political, geopolitical, and so on. But one of these reasons is that if Western ruling class will manage to provoke war in a major regional war in the Middle East, right? And the Persian Gulf is closed for navigation, and China is cut off from these energy sources of the Middle East, then Beijing will have no option but to further increase its dependence on Russian energy, right? And this is dangerous, by the way. This is just too dangerous for both countries, for China and Russia, right? So it is in best interests of Russia to make sure that China always has some at least 2-3 other sources of energy, at least one of them to be major one, as Middle East is, so that China would not be dependent on Russian energy to their scale that might create some security issues potentially in the future, right? So therefore, I think best decision for Iran and Russia in this case would be to deploy Russian nuclear weapons in Iran as a deterrent, right? And maybe that will happen, by the way, sometime in the future. But Iran itself will not work on nuclear weapons, because it's just counterproductive. It does not make Iran any more safer. So that's why I'm saying this is all a false narrative and attempt of Western ruling class and their puppets, including this mass murderer Netanyahu, to create to lay down ground for attacks on Iran and provoking regional war, which will, in the long run, by the way, will devastate US itself. will devastate US itself. But at this point, I really have some doubt. I really have serious doubts that there is in US even a single think tank that have professional analysts, real true analysts that are not indoctrinated or ideologized and are capable of maintaining objectiveness in their works, right? If you take a look at the US policies, by the way, I mean, it does not look like these policies are based on some serious analytics. No, it's just, you know. Anyways, hopefully, world will manage to maintain peace as much as possible in the Middle East, or at least in the Persian Gulf area, because in area of Israel-Palestine, unfortunately, there is escalation after escalation. And even though at this point there is a truth in place, right? Israel continues, by the way, to commit war crimes, this time in the West Bank, right? I don't know if Western media is paying any attention to it, but Israel continues to kill innocent people, right? Inside the Gaza Strip also, and they're also in the West Bank. That's what is happening. And unfortunately, Trump actually doubled down on his recent statement about removing Palestinians from Gaza Strip, basically to conduct ethnic cleansing. And in a very strange disposal, I saw a video, by the way, he was talking that, look at this table is a Middle East, right? And take a look at this pen. Top tip of this pen is Israel, and it's a tiny, and it's not okay for Trump. Who the hell are you, by the way? Who the hell are you, Trump, to talk about which country should be what size? Israel should be grateful that it exists at all, right? And Israel should be grateful not just to US and all the countries in UN that supported creation of Israel, but also to Russia. Because without Soviet Union's involvement, Israel would not exist, right? And since Israel was created, how much territory it took from Palestinians? It doubled and tripled in size, almost. And now Trump wants Israel to become even bigger. He is indoctrinated in this sick idea of a greater Israel, or what is wrong with him, though? I don't know, man. I don't know. Trump's administration might be total disaster for not just US, by the way, but for entire world. You know, if he continues to act these strange ways and dangerous ways, then wow. Then US citizens will regret that they ever supported him very fast, very fast. Some of them, I guess, already are regretting, right? But they just wanted to have a hope, I guess. And many US citizens voted for Trump just to have a hope, right? And I guess many of them are quite disappointed at this point. But anyways, let's continue with some more news. And well, US is halting its tariffs on Mexico and Canada. Trump had phone conversations with leaders of these countries, and their decision was made that US will not impose these new tariffs for 30 days. Both countries, Mexico and Canada, promised that they will deploy some additional forces on the border, and they will be more cooperative with US in regards to fighting illegal migration, fighting drug cartels and so on, drug trafficking and so on. And well, there is a pause now. There is a pause in a tariff war between the US, Mexico, and Canada. Although, by the way, China, meanwhile, is in no mood to play around, and China imposed tariffs on US as a response of US tariffs on China. I shared information about it on my Telegram. So China announced the introduction of duties of 15% on coal and LNG from the United States, as well as 10% on oil and agricultural machinery. And this is, I guess, warning shot from China. And Beijing definitely is in a position to, act tough because they can. US can bully Mexico, Canada, Panama, and Denmark, by the way, and talk Greenland, many other countries. US can bully many countries, unfortunately, right? But China is not one of them, right? and US will find out it hard way, right? Trump wants to talk this in a cowboy style, right, or gangster style. You do this or you will find out hard way. Okay, now US will find out hard way. Mess around China, you will find out. RT is meanwhile reporting that, and it is good, by the way, there should be some balance in this world, right? Unfortunately, Russian economy is not in a position to challenge US, right? Let's be real here. Russian economy is significantly smaller than US economy, even though Russian economy is the biggest economy in Europe, but small compared to US. But Chinese economy, by the way, is bigger than US economy, right? Based on a PPP index, for example, which is much more correct index than a GDP index, right? Traditional GDP index. So China definitely is in a position to not take no shots from US, and they're demonstrating that. Okay, good. Because we need some balance, by the way. I'm not pro-Chinese or something. I never was pro-Chinese. I actually see China as a potential threat for Russia, right? And I hope politicians of two countries will make sure that countries will never end up in a situation when there will be potential risks that there might be some disturbances in relationships in the long term or something. But still, I'm cautious when it comes to China, very cautious. While I don't see US as an enemy at all, or potential enemy, right? If you ask me, I will tell you that Russia and US should be allies, actually. But the US political leadership, Western ruling class, leaves no chances for that, right? So therefore, we have what we have. And we need some balance in this world, and it is good that BRICS and one of the major players in BRICS actually in a position to challenge Washington. It's good. RT, meanwhile, is reporting that Marco Rubio, head of US State Department, is in charge now of USAID, and he had a interview with one of their US media outlets, and he was asked directly, is USAID destined to die? And yesterday, by the way, Musk stated that Trump himself actually agreed to shut down USAID, and Marco Rubio said that her personnel, including leadership of USAID, is not cooperative, right? They don't want government to know in what kind of schemes this organization was involved while spending tens of billions of US taxpayers' money on year basis, right? And Rubio said that if nothing will change, as far as I understand, what he meant is that if Trump's administration will fail to reorganize this institution, then probably something new will be created instead of USAID. Although it is clearly, we clearly can see attempts on part of Trump's administration to reorganize this institution so that it will be more clear and more understandable what they are doing, right? Because it seems like even US government has no idea what USAID does, right? And on internet, you can see some publications, by the way, about money that was spent by USAID worldwide on some quite crazy stuff, right? From funneling funds for terrorist organizations that were designated as a terrorist by US itself, from that to financing some works on bioweapons. So I believe there is quite a work to do with USAID to make sure that this institution is not engaged in in some extreme works, as it was at least before now. And probably, when I watched that short episode of Rubio's interview, I mean, I had the impression that he don't really want to spend much time on dealing with USAID. He rather shut down that institution and create something else that will act as a US soft power worldwide, but would not be engaged in some terrorist activity or financing some bioweapon programs somewhere. Anyways, by the way, let's continue. And RT is reporting, and many other media outlets, that Trump is actually doubling down on South Africa, on his threats, and it's not just threats now. He actually shut down financing certain programs in South Africa. So US President Donald Trump has announced that he is halting funding for South Africa, accusing the country's government of confiscating land and threatening certain classes of people very badly. Trump announced their decision in a post on his Truth Social platform on Sunday, accusing Pretoria, capital of South Africa, of a massive human rights violation. The United States won't stand for it. We will act also. I will be cutting off all future funding to South Africa until full investigation of the situation has been completed, he declared. Last month, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa signed a contentious bill allowing the government to expropriate property without compensation in certain circumstances. The new law aimed to address racial disparities in land ownership, a long-standing issue in Africa's most advanced economy since apartheid ended in 1994. The government has set a target of transferring 30% of farmland from white farmers who still own the majority of it to their black counterparts by 2030. The South African government says that during the apartheid era, thousands of black families were forcibly removed from their land under the Natives Land Act of 1913. And justice to be served, right? And it is a very complex issue. Our friends from South Africa can comment on this topic and share their opinion, what they think is happening. But one may argue that, history is history, and now if this farmland belongs to white farmers, it should stay in there as their property. But what about those thousands of families that were removed forcefully from their land by apartheid regime? Do they have any rights? I think they have to receive back whatever they lost as a result of this apartheid regime. So if that land, 30% or whatever of the farmland, belongs to black farmers or families, descendants of the families that were removed from there, then they should receive it back. That's what justice is, right? But yet again, these white farmers, I don't even like this talk, by the way. I mean, white farmers, black farmers, what the hell, man? It's the 21st century, right? But it's about justice. It's not about race. It's about justice. If thousands of families were removed from this land, they have every right to receive this land back, or compensation, by the way, for all the years that they were suffering and they were losing potential income due to criminal decisions of the apartheid regime that removed them from this land, right? So there is a way for compromises there. But in any case, I hope this topic, first of all, will not create some internal disturbances in the social fabric in South Africa. And then when it comes to US, by the way, why you have to get involved in everything, everywhere? It's none of your business, Trump, what is going on in South Africa. Just what the hell, man? I guess South African farmers, these white farmers, paid some significant sums to some lobbying companies in Washington, and they are now pressing their interests of these farmers, and that's why Trump is talking about it. Because, come on, man, I don't think he will be able to find on the map where South Africa is, man. Really, I really don't think he would be able to find South Africa on the map. I'm telling you. Anyways, let's continue. And TASS news agency is reporting that, EU's Kaja Kallas, by the way, formerly head of EU diplomacy, is warning Europe to prepare itself for a tariff war or trade war with US, although she's trying simultaneously to play on emotions of the US political class, while saying that this trade war will damage our interests and will only benefit China. I don't know if that will work. I don't know if that will deter Trump's administration from imposing some additional tariffs on goods from EU, because a trade deficit between EU and the US is tremendous, right? It's hundreds of billions, by the way. It's not billions, tens of billions, it's hundreds of billions, right? And therefore, I think Trump will go ahead and initiate this trade war with Europe, in which US gonna win, by the way. I don't think the European Union has any chances there. They might deal some damage to US, but nothing compared to what US can do, right? And obviously, there is not even slight chance that Trump will halt engaging in this tariff wars with EU, because more tariffs US will impose on countries worldwide, including on EU, faster the industrialization of those countries will happen, especially in the countries that have great trade relationships with US, right? So therefore, to accelerate further the industrialization of Europe, obviously, more tariffs are needed so that production of goods in Europe become more expensive, or trade with those goods with the US on US market, right? And therefore, companies don't really have much option but to move their manufacturing plants from Europe to US, or to build the new ones in US. In any ways, US will benefit from that, which we cannot say about EU, that's for sure. And there are also, dear friends, few more news. Russians are warned about a locust invasion, according to media. So locust invasions spurred by unusually warm winter is expected to hit 21 regions of Russia, Izvestia reported on Monday, citing an internal report commissioned by the Ministry of Agriculture. The ministry will reportedly form special teams to combat their insects and protect their harvest. The report stated that the number of regions exposed to locust infestation during this agricultural season have increased by more than 30%, with the total area to be treated increased by 100,000 hectares, 1,000 square kilometers. The unusually warm winter season in Russia, and I can confirm, dear friends, winter is unusually warm. It's a February, isn't it? And it's a sunny day here in Moscow. It's a frosty day, but still sunny day. And last several days there was a little snow that almost immediately melted away. Almost entire this winter, by the way, we only had like few days snow, and that's about it, which is truly anomaly, right? But anyways, so unusually warm winter season in Russia will result in a 30 to 50% increase in agriculture pests, plant diseases, and weeds, the report projected, adding that the ministry has allocated nearly 86 million rubles for treating their affected areas and organizing special teams for fighting their insects. So Well, by the way, if Russia will face this locust invasion, and harvesting and agricultural sector will receive some significant damage, that means well, world will feel that for sure, because Russia is a major breadbasket, isn't it, of this world, and obviously if damage from this locust will be really high, then prices on agricultural produce will obviously increase little bit in Russia, and I guess significantly more on in many other countries. So yes, definitely topic that worth paying attention to. And I will end this update on this news that heat and power supplies was restored in the Transnistria. I also spoke about this topic in yesterday's second update. So the supplies of heating and electric power to the homes of Transnistria residents have been restored following a months-long interruption caused by a suspension of Russian gas transit via Ukraine territory. Sergei Obolonik, the vice chairman of the unrecognized republic's government, said at the meeting of the emergency headquarters. And hopefully energo crisis that Transnistria faced, humanitarian crisis actually, is about to end there, and hopefully there will be no more incidents like that. I guess sites that are involved in all this story, Moldova, Transnistria, some EU countries, Russia, sites will create a new basement for stable energy supplies for both Moldova and Transnistria, and it looks like situation is developing exactly that way. And I will end this update on this positive news. Hopefully you will find it interesting, informative, and useful. And if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary. This is very important, by the way, to deal with this crazy algorithm that YouTube has. And dear friends, likes and comments will be helpful on Rumble too. If you can, please click that like button and leave some commentary. Share information about my videos or channel with your friends in real life or on internet. And finally, if you like my work, if you like my channels, if you think I deserve to be in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support her. All the links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a wonderful day and take care.